Welcome to another episode of Ask Me Anything, where we sit down with nonprofit leaders from our greater Helena community and learn more about their organizations and how they make our communities great. So our June 2024 nonprofit of the month is Ability Montana. And we have Shauna with us today to tell us more about Ability Montana. Now, just for the sake of clarity, if you're watching this in June, you've managed to time travel because we're actually shooting this in July. We've had some outages and injuries and things. But we're back to it, and we're really happy to have two Ask Me Anythings this month. So lots of fun things to watch and listen to.
Yay.
So thanks, Shauna.
Yes.
Introduce yourself and tell us a bit about Ability Montana, how long you've been involved.
My name is Shauna, of course. I have been with Montana, well, it used to be Montana Independent Living Project.
Right.
Just a year and a half ago, we changed our name to Ability Montana. I've been with them for 6 years. 5 years, almost 6. I'm in my 6th year with them.
Wow.
We are a center for independent living.
Mm-hmm.
We empower people with disabilities to live independently through information and referral, advocacy, systemic and individual advocacy. We have a recreation program that's really wonderful. We have independent living skills programs that we do, and transition services, which is through the voc rehabs, not voc rehab, but CCI and ours, that for kids that are coming out of high school disabled and into the communities, learning how to work. And that's when the independent living skills training classes comes in, teaches them budgeting, cooking, scheduling,
things you need
how
to know
do bus, how to ride the buses, the bus lines and stuff like that. So
you've told us in a lot of words what to do. Tell us in 10 words or less. Now that's our favorite. We make everybody do this. So just tell us what Ability Montana is in 10 words or less.
Our mission at Ability is to empower people with disabilities to live independently.
Great. That was pretty easy. She had this one down. Some of us have to think about, how do I say this in 10 words?
Well, we get to say it every year at the Greater Helena Gives. That's why that's what we do to make Helena great.
That's true.
Empower people. There's a lot of people, and everybody at one point in their life is going to become disabled, whether it be through aging, accidents, anything could happen, illnesses, and all those things. So it's nice to know that there's people out there like us, the nonprofits, helping the community to stay on.
And that Center for Independent Living, that's like a classification, right? That's like a
there are 4 in the state. Ours is more of we have 14 counties that we serve, because we have branches in Bozeman, Butte, and Helena.
That's a lot of counties. So you guys must be having some staff that travels and.
We do because we just now also just last year finally got the self-direct through the Veterans Affairs finally allowed a self-direct program for their people instead of having to go through the vets, which they've been having a lot of issues with, where they're now able to. And we have one guy, he's also a vet himself, disabled, and has travels all over our counties.
Right.
For just the vets, and we have now up to I think about almost 20 veterans. Each branch is probably running. We have self-direct specialists that coordinate all of the personal care attendants that take care of this disabled people at their homes and are paid for it, so that they don't have to go into facilities, because we all know how those mental facilities have been in the past.
One of them's in the newspaper pretty often right now. So
so trying to keep them at home and cared for by people that they know, and being able to direct their own care is something that we advocate for.
Right.
As well.
So tell me a little bit more about that, because my understanding is you guys have, you call them 6 core or 5 core pillars. 5 core pillars of independence.
It's information and referral, independent living skills training, peer mentoring, individual and system advocacy, and transition services.
Okay. So like the individual advocacy or systemic advocacy. So individual would be like a person learning how to request what they need from maybe an employer or from their family, or
just being able to self-advocate for themselves as well.
When they're talking to their doctors, so that might even just be like skills and confidence kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
As much as, and then probably larger advocacy, more what we see on like public policy kind of levels.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes, exactly what they do. Or if they have troubles filling out applications, or dealing with like SNAP or the AFDC, I don't know what they call it now, DPHHS, having to deal with all the, because there's tons of paperwork, you know,
Sure.
and it overwhelms a lot of these
yeah.
people when they have DDs
Yeah.
and stuff. So they come in and we can sit with them, be a voice for them if they have problems, just to advocate, to sit with them, you know, through either an attorney or through the Social Security Department, you know, if they're struggling with disability. Yeah, that's a lot of it. And then if people are having problems, say, with landlords, you know, not accommodating certain things, you know, when they need certain things. So we do help with that. We are coordinate a lot of times with Disability Rights Montana as well.
Yeah.
To kind of help.
And some of it isn't just for folks with disabilities. You guys also assist with caregivers, trying to...
Yes, the personal care attendant. That's
our tell us more about that.
The self-direct program is just that. It is people with disabilities that do not want to go into facilities, or they're, you know, or aging. We have the aging as well, to keep them out of the assisted livings. That they hire and fire their own personal care attendants or PCAs to come in and do specific duties. So if they're Medicaid approved and they have a PCA, or they have family or friends that are willing to take care of them and help come in, well, we start that process. We take their application, check all of their background. Then they do, the girls will go in and do an intake home visit.
Sure.
Get all the information. Mountain Pacific then will go in, Quality Health will go in with their nurse, do an assessment and find out what areas of activities of daily living, or IADLs, that they need assistance with, say medication reminders, food prep, you know, bathing, wound care. We have specially trained ones that they get, you know, they can do those as well. And they get paid through the Medicaid program. It was really low. It was like $11 an hour when I first started, and it was and it went up $12. They would fight every year with the state to try to get another raise. They finally went to legislator last year, or a year and a half ago, when we first turned over to Ability.
Sure.
And we were able to get our PCAs $16.75 an hour.
Oh, great.
Per hour.
So, I mean, that means for probably a lot of folks then that having, you know, even like a family member, they can actually afford to be a caregiver, as opposed to, because that's a really big strain.
Yeah, if you have to losing work, I mean, this helps them too. So if they have to lose work, they're still being paid enough to subsequent or to supplement the income that they may be losing, or be able to just not have to work at all and be a stay.
And I think that in Montana and a lot of communities, I think that there's an element of caregiving that's almost kind of a neighboring thing, where people are happy to do it for a while, but it can be a very it can be a big project. It can be a lot of work, and it can take a lot of time. And so it's good to know that there's
and having more than one PCA is very, very capable. We have one gal, in fact, she's been with us. She is Ability Montana. Teresa has been with Montana Independent Living since the beginning. 26 years she's been with us, and she has over 6 or 7 PCAs, you know, that take turns, you know, breaking it up, or, you know, maybe somebody only has 2 hours during the week to help her out, you know, but they all take turns kind of doing what they need to do to assist her when needed.
And I think especially, like, I'm thinking of folks I know who are parents with a child with a disability. You know, they worry about that for that kid's whole life. Like, who's gonna be around to help? And so it's good to know some of those things, I think, going forward.
See, and like, there's some of them that their parents that have been taking care of them for so long, or that are aging out now too, and getting to the point where they're going to need some assistance. And that's where this program makes it easier, you know, that they can, at this point, you know, find someone that they can trust to come in and help do a little bit more for them.
So how does somebody qualify for your services?
Medicaid.
Okay.
Medicaid approved and willing to do the work and have PCAs. The independent living specialists that we have there's really no qualifications. They just need assistance. They need the assistance.
So if somebody has a disability but isn't yet on Medicaid, are there programs they can still do with?
We can help get them on it if they need assistance going through the OPEA, which is usually where they need to go. That's where we would start them. If they're not on Medicaid, you know, refer them to the OPA, that, you know, explain to them that they can do it online. A lot of times they get denied right off the bat, you know, to come back with, to give them the information again, doctor's information, letting them know how to go about getting the information or the assistance that they need. They also, if they don't qualify for Medicaid and they have Medicare, we do have a spend down program. That also we work with legislatures as well to increase the cost of living, so that it takes what your cost of living is, subtracts it, and then that's what you pay monthly in order to get the self-direct services.
Okay.
So it is available to as well for them. Sometimes it's a little too expensive for them, and it might be worth it to do the home health care because their insurance covers it.
Yeah.
So we want to work with them. We don't want to put anybody out. It's hard enough being in the situation. We have a huge recreation program that has just exploded.
And there's a big part of that happening right now this week, right?
Yes, Ability Days is happening at the Camp Bullwheel right now. It's just open to the public. Camp Bullwheel, we leased out last year. So that the Adipose Boats has given us a couple, donated one, and then we purchased another one that has wheelchair access onto the float boats for and volunteers that come in and help them fly fish or just
that's
fish.
Awesome.
You can camp out. You can have a whole weekend there at the campsite. I mean, they have the giant cabin. They've got 2 different tents or again other camper things set up. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
In fact, we are having our staff retreat there this next week.
So you get to be.
So I get to get on the river, and that'll be my second time.
That sounds really very cool.
Took the kids.
Yeah.
Year,
so there's lots of things that are there, and I think that when we talk about disabilities, that's a more vast term than I think a lot of people realize. And I know I attended the Let's Talk Disability that you guys did in May, and it was really fascinating, powerful, and some of the things that people were talking about weren't necessarily things that I would have automatically thought of as a disability. But the way in which it impacted somebody's life was, like I said, pretty meaningful and telling. And I left with a lot. I know I left with a deeper understanding of that, the struggles and the empowerment that some people are going through. But I also, I definitely left feeling like I knew some of the individual people so differently. And that was really an interesting experience. So I think that was a pretty interesting example of some of your giving voice to people and self-advocacy probably. But can you talk a little bit more about programs like that? And is there going to be another one?
Yes, we brought it over from Butte. It started over there 3 years ago. And it all actually, like she said at the beginning, it all started with the women's group that they had, and they all just started talking about, their struggles and challenges, and how they've overcome certain barriers and stuff in their lives, or how they've been, like myself, having an invisible disability, having the ADHD and the fibromyalgia, and, not, when I was taking the flyers around to promote the Let's Talk Disability, I remember one guy saying to me, he's like, well, nobody on here looks disabled. Which was made it that much more powerful for us to do, is that, people are not seeing that there are a lot of invisible disabilities. People have developmental disabilities, or they have mental health issues, or post-traumatic stress, that, can cause a lot of problems, physically and in their jobs, and, in life in general.
Yeah.
And that, making people more aware, I think, is kind of what it's all about.
Right.
That not to diss the ability that we actually have, that we may have an invisible or even a physical, obvious disability, but that doesn't stop us from being, the humans that we are.
Right.
And shouldn't be treated any differently, that we should be just as inclusive as everybody else.
I know that there are some people in our community who, are dealing with things that are maybe newer or not as well understood, things like long COVID and
I think the stigma there's a stigma that people, the fear of different is what, holds people back from either engaging or, allowing or accommodating. I think it's that fear of, that'll never happen to me. But then when it does, and then you're like, whoa, I'm feeling, how that person feels, on a regular basis. This might be just a temporary thing for me right now, but wow, I'm being dissed really bad, or people are treating me completely different,
or I'm treating myself completely different. I'm like, this is no big deal. I should be fine by now.
Yeah. So.
So if I'm somebody in our community who wants to be an ally, how do I help? Like as a human, as an employer, like what are the things that I can do to, be.
Volunteering is always great.
Yeah.
We have lots of place room for volunteering, especially in the summer in Camp Bullwheel. They do hunting. They do other track things. They do a hunting thing each year, so that they have to have a buddy with them. So if ever you wanted to volunteer to be one, of a person's buddy. The sled hockey that we have started here, the Helena Miners, also huge, big. It'll be coming up soon. Any of that, any engagement whatsoever, the women's groups, the men's groups.
Sure.
You don't have to be disabled or whatever, just want to be a part of a community or, learn more about those kinds of things.
Sure.
Or have just, empowered people empower people.
Right. That's fair. I like that. Empowered people empower people.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I like that. And then I think one of the things too that I think a lot of us assume is that if somebody's disabled that they can't work or don't work. And that's not always true.
Nope.
Yeah,
78% of my employees are disabled.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And you guys get a lot of stuff done. You do a lot of good work.
Yeah. We have a mission.
Oh, yeah. But I guess that's the thing. Like, I think that people think that, we hear, I know as an employer, I have heard of and have some understanding of like a reasonable accommodation or things like that. But I think especially with COVID, we proved we can accommodate a lot more than we think. Most of us worked from home for a long period of time, and yet many employers previous to that would be like, no, that's not a thing we can allow. But the truth is there's a lot more we can do. And
it just goes to show you that if a disability was looked at like COVID was, because it disabled our entire country.
Right.
If they look at the disability the same way, look at how much more accommodations is going to come out of it.
Yeah.
It already has because of that.
Right. You guys are working with a lot of people. How many employees do you have?
About 40.
Okay.
Probably 40, 45 maybe. I'm not sure.
And then you probably contract out with other folks as well, too.
We do have a couple contractors.
Yeah.
We do have a lot of our we have peers, paid peers, that, help with mentoring. They get paid to help run some of the groups,
sure,
the men's and women's groups. Like I said, the Let's Talk Disabilities, that's another thing that we will be bringing back, like I said, to Helena. We will start auditioning to some people to come in. That doesn't have to be just us. We just did it to start it.
Sure.
We try to get our consumers or even, more of the community involved would be really.
But I can also believe that when you are an independence organization, having folks who are your employees and have disabilities is probably, again, a really great way of walking the walk. And I bet that makes people feel a lot more empowered right off the bat.
I hope so.
Yeah, like we're working on these things together, and
we see it.
I'm with you in a way that you may not have realized.
Exactly.
Yeah, very cool.
Being that ally, like you said, without even having to do nothing, just know that hey, I got your back, and whatever you need in your sport and resources. And
I think that can be really, again, really helpful just to see people. It's like, yeah, I know you can do this because I'm doing it with you. I'm right alongside you. So that's exciting.
Yeah.
So what's anything you guys have going on or coming up that we should be aware of or things to look forward to in the future?
Well, yeah, keep it going.
Sure, yeah.
Well, we're going to keep going with everything. Honestly, the recreation program has gotten so wonderful, and we've got more staff to help with that. The Let's Talk Disability has been really wonderful. The women's groups are starting to grow. The men's group, they've been doing camping and fishing this last week. Just the sled hockey will be coming up in the fall as well.
So check your website, look for events.
The ADA birthday, the ADA is in July 25th.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's coming up.
And then there's Charles, who also does the U.S. Aging and does all of the, he does all of our outreach and sets up booths for COVID, vaccinations, getting signed up for those still.
Yeah.
For the aging and for the rural areas where they can't get to certain places.
That's great. Well, Shauna's always one of my favorite people to talk to, although I will admit because the name is spelled not the way I expected to, so I always want to say Shana, but it's Shauna. But your energy is always just so fun too, and so watch for Shauna events and gosh knows what else. So
I'm always around.
Yeah, you're always around, and she's always very helpful and very excited. And you guys, like when you rebranded, you had all sorts of fun swag, and we're like just super excited to share with everybody. So it was a lot of fun to watch you guys grow.
We just got some polar sunglasses in and some chubs.
Ooh.
So
Ooh, nice.
I should have brought you some stuff.
Oh no, we're good. We're good. But come down and come get to know.
Come see us.
Come know the staff. You guys are over in the Great Northern Town Center.
Yep, we are adjacent to the Hokkaidos.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So get your ramen and then come over and get your swag and learn about being a good ally or the services that you might need and didn't know you had access to. So, well, thanks for having us, and we'll be back for another Ask Me Anything soon. You can find out more information about our Nonprofit of the Month program on Facebook and on our website at HelenaAreaCommunityFoundation.org. And we look forward to sharing another video with you this very month. Thanks so much.
Thank you.